Today's lesson is Chef Jose Andres, changing the world one meal at a time. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're going to continue talking about cooking. Don't we all love food so much? And, of course, when people cook, they become chefs, and maybe they might become famous, like Chef Jose Andres. Now, remember, he began by working in Barcelona. He got fired from a restaurant, so he moved to New York and opened up his minibar restaurant, which became quite famous, and eventually he built up a culinary empire with 28 restaurants, 4 cookbooks, and a line of food products. But he didn't think that was enough, did he?
No. Later on, he also began volunteering for a charity that's called DC Central Kitchen. And this charity feeds people who are hungry and also provides them with the skills to look for jobs. And Andres really enjoyed working in this place, and he decided this place should exist, or something like this should exist all over the world. So that's where he got the idea of expanding the idea of DC Central Kitchen to a global scale.
Indeed. So, of course, today we're going to talk about some other things that he has done in the world of cooking for the rest of the world. So let's find out now what he did in Haiti to begin with. Let's listen to the first part of today's lesson, and then we'll be back to discuss it.
In 2010, Andres finally put his idea into action in response to Haiti's earthquake, creating World Central Kitchen. The charity responds to humanitarian crises around the world by setting up mobile kitchens to feed those in need while also creating jobs. Andres believes that food does more than just keep hunger away. It provides hope. It tells you in your darkest hour that someone somewhere cares about you. This is the real meaning of comfort food, he says on the organization's website.
大家好。第一部分我们看到片语 put something into action， 指将点点点付诸行动或是实践点点点。例如 The rescuers put their plan into action， 救援人员将他们的计划付诸实行。或是 The government put a new law into action to reduce litter in public places， 政府开始实施新法以减少公共场所的垃圾。再来我们看到名词 charity，意思是慈善机构、组织或是慈善事业。我们可以说 This charity helps build homes for people who don't have a place to live. 这个慈善团体帮无处可住的人盖房子。或者 I always give a portion of my earnings to charity. 我总是把我收入的一部分捐给慈善用途。另外补充这个字的形容词 charitable。C-H-A-R-I-T-A-B-L-E, charitable， 意思是慈善的或是仁慈的，像是 The entrepreneur is known for making large charitable donations to several organizations. 那名企业家以大手笔慈善捐款给数个机构为人所知。也可以说 Stephen spends his spare time volunteering with charitable organizations. Steven 将他的闲暇时间用在慈善机构上。
So we now jump to the year 2010. Andres, before, really liked the idea of DC Central Kitchen. He wanted to be able to help people. And in 2010, Andres finally put his idea into action in response to Haiti's earthquake, creating World Central Kitchen. So when you put your idea into action, it means that you actually start doing things to make your idea, your thoughts, into something that's material. So in the case of Andres, he created World Central Kitchen, and that's how he put his idea into action. And what this new creation, World Central Kitchen, did was respond to the problems that were created by the earthquake in Haiti.
Yep, as you know, there was an earthquake in Haiti, so people there needed a lot of help. So he had this idea about helping out the rest of the world. So he put his idea into action. You could put your plan into action. For example, if you have a new marketing strategy for your company, yes, you can put it into action. You can start doing it. Now, the charity responds to humanitarian crises around the world by setting up mobile kitchens to feed those in need, while also creating jobs. So basically, the World Central Kitchen is a charity. A charity is an organization that is designed to help people. It's usually non-profit, and again, you can contribute to charity, for example, to help out poor people or earthquake victims or things like that. And this particular charity, the World Central Kitchen, responds to humanitarian crises around the world. If something is humanitarian, it has to do with humanity, with people in the world, especially if they're having problems and they need help.
Yes, and these problems are often caused by natural disasters or wars, and these problems are usually in need of answers supplied by charities. So Andres started World Central Kitchen to respond to the earthquake in Haiti. And this charity also created jobs aside from feeding people who were in need. Andres believes that food does more than just keep hunger away. It provides hope.
Okay, so people get food to eat, but maybe later on they're still kind of sad and they don't have much motivation to continue. So, of course, he wants his food to not only feed them, but to give them hope for a better future. And here's what he says. It tells you in your darkest hour that someone somewhere cares about you. This is the real meaning of comfort food, he says on the organization's website. So indeed, if there is hope, then it helps people when they're in their darkest hour, when they're in a really, really bad situation. And it tells them that they're not alone. Someone somewhere in the world cares about them. And that gives all of us some hope when we realize that, hey, we're not alone. There is somebody out there who really wants us to succeed. And here we've got the term comfort food, which is food that people eat to make them feel better.
Yes, he's actually redefining comfort food here because comfort food is usually used when we want to talk about food that make us feel like we're back at home or food that reminds us of our mother's cooking. In my case, it's mashed potatoes, for instance. When I'm feeling down, I want just a big bowl of mashed potatoes. But here, comfort food means something more because it's comforting people who are really suffering because of earthquakes or floods or war. So this food is providing a lot of comfort to people who really do need it.
Yep, so if you go to their website, World Central Kitchen there, and you will see his statement there about providing hope and giving a new meaning to the term comfort food. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's continue to talk about World Central Kitchen in the next part of our lesson.
World Central Kitchen sprang into action yet again this year to help the millions of Ukrainians fleeing their war-torn country. In just weeks, the charity set up stations around the Ukrainian border and served over 100,000 meals per day to refugees. It also built a huge kitchen in Przemysl, Poland, where 2/3 of Ukrainian refugees enter the neighboring country. As usual, Andres has been on the ground when he can, cooking and serving with the rest of his team.
第二部分我们看到形容词 neighboring 指邻近的或是相邻的。举例来说 While this part of town is quite wealthy, some of the neighboring districts are not as nice. 虽然这部分的城镇还算富裕，但有些邻近的区域就没这么好了。或是 A lady from the neighboring office invited Shelley out to lunch. 隔壁办公室的女士邀请 Shelley 外出吃午餐。另外把这个字字尾的 ing 去掉，就变成了单字 neighbor。这个字是名词，意思是邻居。像是 If I go on vacation, my neighbor will water my plants for me. 如果我去度假， 我邻居会帮我的植物浇水。也可以说 Mona had dinner with her neighbors last night. Mona 昨晚和邻居共进晚餐。
World Central Kitchen sprang into action yet again this year to help the millions of Ukrainians fleeing their war-torn country. So World Central Kitchen helped the people in Haiti when the country was struck by an earthquake. And this year, it also sprang into action. It sprang into action again to help other people, this time the millions of Ukrainians fleeing their country. So to spring into action simply means to become active. So World Central Kitchen became active again, and this time it's to help the people, Ukrainians, fleeing their country. To flee means to escape, usually to escape from a dangerous situation such as war or natural disasters.
Right. So, of course, we've got the term here to spring into action. For example, hey, Batman, the Joker's loose. So Batman and Robin sprang into action to chase after the Joker and capture him and beat him up and stuff like that. So here, of course, the World Central Kitchen sprang into action because there was a problem in Ukraine, and there were lots of people fleeing Ukraine because Ukraine was war-torn because of Russia's invasion there. So, of course, if you flee, you run away from a dangerous situation. You are a refugee. And, of course, if there's war going on, then it is a war-torn country. And in just a few weeks, the charity set up stations around the Ukrainian border and served over 100,000 meals per day to refugees. And remember, everybody, a refugee is somebody who is escaping a dangerous situation in their country and fleeing to another country. And we hear about refugees all the time. There are wars and conflicts going on all over the world. And, of course, we did hear about refugees escaping Syria and heading to other countries. And now we've got Ukrainians fleeing Ukraine to neighboring countries, and they are refugees. But when they cross the border into a neighboring country, there's a good chance that there will be a hot meal waiting for them, all thanks to Jose Andres.
And the World Central Kitchen also provided services in other countries besides Ukraine and Haiti. It also built a huge kitchen in Przemysl, Poland, where 2/3 of Ukrainian refugees enter the neighboring country. So World Central Kitchen also built a kitchen in this city called Przemysl in Poland, where 2/3 of Ukrainian refugees, which is a lot of Ukrainian refugees, enter the neighboring country. Neighboring here means near each other because Poland and Ukraine are right next to each other, so they are like neighbors.
As usual, Andres has been on the ground when he can, cooking and serving with the rest of his team. He could be hanging back in New York there, watching operations via the internet or something, but hey, he's on the ground there. He's right in the middle of that situation. And, of course, he wants to be there when he can. He can't always be there, but he tries his best to be there. And he's cooking and serving with everybody else. And he's helping make the world a better place as a result. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third and final part.
Andres has been referred to as a true hero for his humanitarian work, but he remains humble and insists that what he is doing is achievable by anyone. You'd be amazed at the power of a plate of food, he says. It can change the world, and so can you.
最后第三部分，我们看到单字 achievable， 这个字是形容词，指可达到的或是可完成的。例如 The teacher told the student that an A grade was achievable if he worked hard. 这位老师跟那名学生说，如果你用功的话，拿到 A 的成绩是可以达成的。或是 It's good to set some achievable goals when the new semester starts. 新学期开始时，设立一些可完成的目标是件好事。 另外补充2个和 achievable 相关的单字。第一个是动词 achieve， A-C-H-I-E-V-E achieve， 意思是达成或是完成。我们可以说 After a lot of work, Grant achieved a high position in the company. 费了番功夫后 Grant 在这家公司取得高位。也可以说 Tara has achieved a lot for her young age. Tara 年纪轻轻就已达成很多成就。第二个是名词 achievement， A-C-H-I-E-V-E-M-E-N-T achievement， 意思是成就或是功绩。像是 Angela gave a long speech celebrating the scientists' achievements. Angela 发表长篇演说，颂扬这个科学家的成就。或者 Getting into medical school was a great achievement for Michael. 进入医学院对 Michael 来说是一个很大的成就。
Andres has been referred to as a true hero for his humanitarian work, but he remains humble and insists that what he is doing is achievable by anyone. So even though people call him a true hero, they refer to him as a true hero, he says that's not true because what I do can actually be done by any person. Here the verb refer means to describe something or somebody as something else. So Andres has been referred to or described as a true hero. But he says, no, that's not true because what I am doing is achievable by anyone. So achievable just means it can be achieved by anyone.
Yep, and back to the verb to refer, it's often used in the phrase to be referred to as. For example, my cousin Dean is really tall and thin, and he likes to study a lot, so he's often referred to as Pencil Man because he's so tall and thin like a pencil. And of course, people use pencils to study a lot or take notes and stuff, so we call him the Pencil Man, or we refer to him as Pencil Man. And in this particular case, he's referred to as a true hero. Andres is referred to as a true hero. They consider him a true hero because of that humanitarian work, but he's humble. And he insists that what he is doing is achievable by anyone. So as Helen said, achievable means you're able to do this. Anybody can do what he's doing. And of course, he's humble there. And because he's helping people out, I think we could all learn a lesson from him.
He says, in fact, you'd be amazed at the power of a plate of food. It can change the world, and so can you. So with this quote, what he is saying is that what I'm doing as a chef isn't so great. I'm not a superhero because anybody can cook. And just because I can cook really well doesn't mean that what I do cannot be done by you. We shouldn't underestimate the power of a simple plate of food and the power that this plate of food can give to people who are in need.
Indeed. So sometimes, of course, if you're starving and if you have an empty stomach and someone offers you something to eat, it can not only help you whet your appetite and fill your stomach, but it can also give you hope. And in this particular case, he is trying to change the world one meal at a time. I wonder what other conflict is going to happen in the future in which he can go there with his team and cook meals for refugees as they begin to stream across the border. All right, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. It's time now to move on to our Chinese teacher, and then following Hanny, we're going to have a discussion.
Hello, 同学大家好，我是 Hanny。我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分的第1句写道，安德烈斯因其人道主义工作而被称为真正的英雄。好，这边我们来学习 refer to 的几个用法。 第一个是 refer to A as B， 表示把 A 称为 B， 只称 A 为 B。文中呢是用被动用法，我们用 A be referred to as B， 表示 A 被称为 B 的意思。好，举例来说 New York City is often referred to as the Big Apple。纽约市常被称为大苹果。好，那么第二个用法，我们可以用 refer to 去表达指的是什么什么，跟什么什么有直接的关联。例如 The term phubbing refers to the action of snubbing someone you are with and giving attention to your phone instead. Phubbing 这个词呢，指的是冷落身边的人，而把注意力放在手机上的行为，千万不要这样做哦。好，再来看到第三个用法呢，我们可以用 refer to 去表达提及、提到、谈起什么什么，像是 They agreed not to refer to yesterday's quarrel. 他们一致同意不要提起昨天的争执。好，那么课文最后引用了安德烈斯的话，他有提到说You'd be amazed at the power of a plate of food. It can change the world, and so can you. 你会对一盘食物的力量感到惊讶，它可以改变世界，你也可以。好，那第二句它用到 so can you， 这是以 so 开头的肯定复合句，用来复合前面的句子，那就相当于You can change the world too. 好，那我们来学习这个句型哦。我们用 so 加上助动词或 be 动词，再加主词。那这时候这个 so 是当副词来表达也是，而后方的主词跟助动词或者是主词跟 be 动词是要对调来形成倒装的。我们就来看两个例句。Tina had bread and coffee for breakfast. So did I. Tina 早餐吃面包配咖啡。我也是。好，再造一个例句哦。Reading is relaxing, and so is listening to music. 阅读是很令人放松的，听音乐也是。好，那至于否定复合的话，我们可以用到 neither， 或者是念作 neither， 然后加上助动词或 be 动词，再加主词去表达也不怎么样怎么样。像是 Sharon isn't going to the party.And neither are we. Sharon 不会去参加派对，我们也不会。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Charity. Jaylee runs a local charity that provides food for homeless people. Flee. Thousands of people fled the city when war broke out. Refugee. The refugees walked for days before they reached the border. Neighboring.Selena fell in love with a boy from the neighboring village. Refer. The traveler referred to his companion only as the boy. Achievable. Set yourself achievable goals so that you don't get discouraged.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Okay, here's our discussion starter for today. And here's the question that you might consider asking your classmates and having a discussion about. Here's the question. Do you think building a food empire or creating a charity organization is the greater achievement, and why?
Well, personally, I think the greater achievement is building a food empire because that is not easy to do. It's not easy to make money by opening a lot of restaurants or getting Michelin stars, but only by building a food empire was Chef Andres able to have the money to then start his charity organization and also to have the fame so that people would do what he wanted.
Well, for me, of course, creating a charity organization is the greater achievement. It is more impressive than building a food empire because anybody can build a food empire. There's lots of people out there who are willing to spend lots of money to eat special meals and take pictures of the food and post those pictures on social media and get hundreds of thousands of likes for their posts and stuff like that. There are egos all over the place like that, so that's pretty easy. The hard part is creating that charity organization in which nobody wants to see the posts. Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.